The airport buzzed with motion, screens flashing, voices calling flights to places she wished she could vanish into. Lina darted through the glass doors, the strap of her bag slipping off her shoulder. She wasn't running for a flight. She was running from the hollow feeling clawing her chest. Then she froze. 10 feet ahead, by the VIP lounge, stood Marcus. Same confident stance, same smirk that once made her melt, only now polished by money and arrogance. And beside him, a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. Tall, glossy hair, laughter ringing through the noise. For a second Lina couldn't breathe. The sound of that laugh pierced straight through her composure. Marcus tilted his head, noticed her. His expression didn't soften, it sharpened as if amused. The woman leaned closer, whispered, and they both laughed again. That tiny exchange cut deeper than any argument ever had. Her fingers clenched around her phone. She wanted to vanish, hide behind anyone, anything. But humiliation has a cruel way of freezing people where they stand. A year ago, she'd loved that man. They'd shared ramen dinners, late-night job hunts, cheap dreams. She'd believed struggle was temporary. He'd believed her faith would follow him anywhere. Until success came calling. The memory slammed in without warning. The tiny apartment kitchen, the burnt candles, her nervous smile. He'd walked in not with flowers, but with a tone that made her heart shrink. "Lina," he'd said, voice flat. "I can't do this anymore." She'd laughed softly, thinking he was tired, maybe joking. "You can't do what?" "Pretend," he muttered. "You want to stay in this life, this comfort zone." "I can't. My world's changing. I need someone who fits it." "Someone who fits it." She tried to keep her voice steady. "You're incredible, Lina. But I've outgrown this." He didn't look back when he left. The food went cold. The rain outside did the crying she couldn't. And now, standing in that airport, she realized he hadn't just left her, he'd erased her. Marcus's new lover whispered something, and both burst into laughter again. The sound hit like a slap. Her throat burned. She wanted to scream, cry, vanish. Anything. But not in front of them. Not after everything. She turned, desperate to anchor herself to something, anything. That's when she saw him. A man standing near gate 7, tall, composed, scrolling his phone. Light brown skin, sharp jawline, calm eyes that carried no judgment. For a split second, their eyes met. Something steady in his gaze told her he'd seen pain before. And understood silence better than pity. Her breath trembled. She didn't think. She just moved. Each step felt like defiance. Marcus noticed, of course he did, and his smirk deepened, as if expecting a meltdown. Instead, Lina kept walking until she stood in front of the stranger. Her voice barely existed when she whispered, "Please, just pretend to hug me." The man blinked once. Confusion flickered, then softened. He nodded. No questions, no hesitation. He simply wrapped his arms around her. Gentle but firm, the kind of embrace that says you're safe here. For 3 seconds, the noise of the airport vanished. Marcus's laughter stopped. The glamorous woman frowned. The hum of travelers blurred behind them, as if the world decided to give Lina this one quiet victory. She inhaled sharply. He smelled of cologne and rain and something peaceful. When she exhaled, it felt like releasing a year's worth of pain. "Thank you," she whispered into his chest. He leaned slightly, murmured, "Is this the part where I ask what just happened?" She managed a tiny laugh. "No. This is the part where you pretend we're madly in love." He smiled, the corners of his mouth lifting like sunrise. "Got it." They stayed that way, pretending, until Marcus turned away. The victory was small, but it was hers. When she finally pulled back, the stranger studied her quietly. His eyes weren't prying, they were curious in a respectful way. "You okay?" he asked. Lina swallowed hard. "Now yeah." He gave a half smile. "Good. Because I think your ex just realized what he lost." That caught her off guard. "You noticed? Kind of hard not to when a guy nearly trips over his ego watching another man hold you." She couldn't help it, she laughed. It wasn't graceful, but it was real. "You're not bad at this fake boyfriend thing." He extended his hand. "Adrian." "Lina." He nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. Nice to meet you, Lina, who starts fights with her ex's ego. She smiled wider than she had in months. Over the intercom, flight numbers echoed, footsteps hurried past. The moment should have dissolved, but it didn't. It lingered like electricity between strangers who suddenly feel less alone. Adrian checked his watch. You flying somewhere or just performing emotional miracles at Gate 7? Both, she said, glancing at the screen. But mostly running from a mistake. He tilted his head. Looks like you just ran into a reset button instead. Something in his tone made her heart thump unexpectedly. She stepped back, flustered. Thanks, really. You saved me from dying of embarrassment. He smiled softly. Anytime. Though next time, maybe give a guy some warning before public affection becomes part of the deal. Next time, she echoed. Yeah. He handed her his business card, the kind that gleamed silver under the lights. In case you need a professional hug actor again. She stared at the card. Adrian Cole, CEO, Cole Innovations. Before she could reply, a boarding call interrupted. She looked toward her gate. He followed her gaze, then smiled. Go. Before you miss your flight and start another emotional scene. She rolled her eyes playfully. You're impossible. Admit it, he said with a grin. I made your day better. She hesitated, then nodded. You did. He extended his hand again, this time gently brushing her fingers as he said, then maybe let fate return the favor someday. The words lingered long after she walked away. As Lina disappeared into the crowd, Adrian watched her until she was gone, then looked back toward Marcus and his companion. The man who'd mocked her now stood visibly unsettled. Adrian's smile returned, small, knowing, protective. Sometimes, he thought, you don't need to know someone's story to want to defend it. The intercom crackled. Life resumed. But something in the air had changed. Lina didn't know it yet, but the moment she asked a stranger for help was the moment her story stopped being about heartbreak and started being about healing. The city lights shimmered against the glass of Lina's taxi as it glided through the rain. Her phone buzzed, notifications, emails, the same exhausting noise of a life that didn't slow down for heartbreaks. But she didn't check any of them. She kept replaying the moment at the airport. The hug. The calm in his voice. The way Adrian looked at her like she was more than a passing stranger. She caught her reflection in the window. Tired eyes, messy hair, and that faint trace of mascara underlining a sleepless life. What are you doing, Lina? She whispered to herself. She had no plan, no expectation. But something in her had shifted. The next morning, her phone rang. A known number. She hesitated before answering. Lina, said a smooth, familiar voice. This is Adrian. Her heart skipped. You wait. How did you write? I gave you nothing to call me with. He chuckled. You followed me on LinkedIn last night. Rookie mistake, Miss Mysterious. She laughed awkwardly, covering her face though no one could see her. You stalked me back? Curiosity is part of my job description. Speaking of, are you free for coffee? No fake hugs this time, I promise. Lina hesitated. Why? Because I owe you an explanation. An explanation? For what? For why a stranger would pretend to be someone's boyfriend without flinching. I figure you deserve at least that. She could have said no. She should have. But something about his tone, steady, kind, unhurried, felt like gravity. 2 hours later, she walked into a quiet cafe downtown. Adrian was already there, no suit this time, just a plain black sweater, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked human. Warm. Hey, he said, standing up as she approached. Hey, she replied, nervous laughter hiding in her voice. So, is this where you tell me you're secretly a therapist or something? He smiled. No, but I've seen enough broken people to know when someone's carrying more than they're saying. She exhaled. That's not creepy at all. Sorry, he said, laughing softly. Force of habit. My company builds wellness tech. Human emotions kind of fund my paycheck. That's ironic, she murmured. He tilted his head. Why? Because I used to work in PR. My job was to make people look okay, even when they weren't. He nodded slowly. So that's what you were doing at the airport? Looking okay. Her eyes dropped to her cup. Trying to. A silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy. He didn't push. That's what made her speak. He left me when things got good, she said quietly. I supported him through everything. The sleepless nights, the rejections, the interviews. Then when he finally landed that job, he said I wasn't fitting his future. Adrian's expression darkened. That's cold. She shrugged. It's reality. People outgrow people. Or at least that's what they say when they want something shiny. He leaned forward slightly. And you? What do you want? Lina blinked, caught off guard. I don't know anymore. Then maybe, he said softly, you need to stop defining yourself by what he didn't choose. The words sank deep, like warm water washing away a wound she didn't know still bled. She looked up at him. You sound like someone who's been there. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Maybe. Care to elaborate? He paused. Once upon a time, I was the guy who left someone because I thought ambition was enough. Lina froze. You wait, what? I didn't cheat or lie, he said quietly. I just walked away when love asked for patience and I was too busy chasing success. I told myself I was doing it for the future. Turns out, the future's quiet when no one's there to share it. Their eyes met. Two people staring into each other's broken reflections. Lina whispered. So now you play the hero for strangers at airports? He smiled a little sad. Maybe I was trying to rewrite an old ending. The truth in his tone did something to her chest, something dangerous and healing all at once. Outside, the rain began again, tapping against the glass like soft applause. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. But if I leave now, it'll be the most boring part of my day. She laughed softly. Don't let me be the reason your company collapses. Trust me, he said, standing. You're the reason I remembered I'm still human. She blushed. You're not bad at this. At what? Making strangers feel like they matter. He smiled, then slipped a small folded note across the table. Open it later. Why not now? Because mystery makes the caffeine hit harder. As he left, she unfolded it anyway. Inside were 5 words written neatly. Meet me tomorrow. Same place. Lina couldn't help it, she smiled. The next day, she showed up again. Then again. And again. Their meetings became ritual. Sometimes coffee, sometimes walks, sometimes quiet silences that said more than words. She found herself laughing again, really laughing. One afternoon, as they watched the city skyline, she caught him looking at her, not with pity or attraction, but something deeper, like recognition. What? She asked. You remind me, he said, of who I wanted to be before I lost myself in work. She raised a brow. And who's that? A man who believes in people more than profits. Her voice softened. Maybe that man's still in there. He smiled. Maybe you're helping him come back. She turned to the view again. Then I guess we're both recovering something. He chuckled. Seems like it. The moment stretched, quiet but charged. Then her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen, and her smile faded. Marcus. Adrian noticed. The ex. She nodded. How does he even? The message blinked. I saw you. It seems you had it all figured out, huh? I swear. I will destroy you. Her hands shook slightly. He must have seen us somewhere. Adrian frowned. You don't owe him a reaction. But she was already typing back. You can't do nothing, hater. Watch me shine brighter in a few years. I promise. She hit send. Exhaled. Adrian smiled faintly. That's progress. She looked at him, eyes glassy but determined. No. That's closure. He held her gaze for a long moment, then said quietly, then maybe now you can start something real. She felt her pulse quicken. Are we still talking about closure? Maybe, he said, smiling slowly. We're talking about beginnings. Her heart stuttered. For the first time in years, the idea of love didn't feel like danger. It felt like possibility. Lina woke up the next morning to sunlight spilling across her sheets. For the first time in months, she didn't wake up thinking of Marcus. She thought of Adrian. His calm voice. That quiet smile. The way he looked at her like he saw past the armor. Her phone buzzed, a message from him. Lunch? My office. 1 p.m. dress like you're not trying too hard. She laughed out loud. Arrogant much, she muttered, but she smiled anyway. By noon, she stood in front of a glass building that looked more like a museum than an office. Orion Technologies. The kind of place you walk into and instantly feel underdressed no matter what you're wearing. The receptionist smiled. You must be Ms. Lina? She blinked. How did you? He said you'd come. Top floor. Top floor. Of course. Adrian never did things halfway. The elevator opened to a minimalistic office. All steel, glass, and quiet power. Adrian stood by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled, city stretching behind him like a backdrop to his control. He turned, smiled. You made it. She laughed. You made it sound like an interview. He gestured to the table. In a way it is. Seeked. She raised an eyebrow. Am I applying for a job I don't know about? He chuckled. No. I just wanted you to see my world. The one I nearly drowned in. Her eyes scanned the room. Awards, newspaper clippings, headlines. Orion founder named Tech Visionary of the Year. Adrian Cole's app revolutionizes mental health analytics. Lina turned to him, stunned. You're that Adrian Cole? The Adrian Cole? He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. I was hoping the lack of a last name would buy me anonymity. You're a billionaire, she said, half laughing, half shaking her head. I've been spilling my heartbreak to a billionaire. Technically, he said, just a very tired man with a few good ideas. She stared at him, searching his expression. Why didn't you tell me? Because, he said quietly, I wanted one person in my life who didn't look at me like I was a headline. The words hit her. Clean, sincere, vulnerable. Still, something twisted in her chest. You lied by omission. I protected the truth until it mattered. That's not the same thing. He looked away. You're right. Silence. The hum of the city through the window. Her heart beat loud in her ears. Then he said, There's more you should know. Her throat tightened. Adrian, what does that mean? He walked to his desk, picked up a folder, and slid it across to her. Inside were documents, images, reports. Her face. Her portfolio. Job records. Lina's hands trembled. You did a background check on me? Not exactly, he said softly. Your name came up in a project proposal 2 weeks before we met. A PR campaign pitch. My company considered hiring your firm. Her eyes darted to his. So you knew who I was? Yes, he admitted. But I didn't know I'd meet you at the airport. That part was real. She rose from her chair, her voice sharp with disbelief. So the hug, the coffee, all of it, was it a setup? No, he said, stepping closer. Lina, listen. You should have told me, she cut in. You had every chance. Instead you let me think. Think what? He said gently. That we were both lost, she said, voice cracking. But maybe I was just another research subject for your company's empathy app. He flinched. That's not fair. No, she said bitterly. What's not fair is you pretending to understand what it's like to be broken when your worst problem is too many zeros in your bank account. Her voice echoed in the glass office, raw and unfiltered. Adrian took a slow breath. I didn't tell you because I didn't want my past mistakes to define your opinion of me. I built an empire to prove I could fix others while quietly falling apart myself. You were the first person who didn't want anything from me. She shook her head, tears threatening. You don't get it, Adrian. I wasn't playing a part with you. That hug, it wasn't fake for me. He stepped forward, his voice low, almost breaking. It wasn't fake for me either. Her eyes glistened. Then why does it feel like everything else was? The silence that followed was suffocating. She grabbed her bag. Goodbye, Adrian. Lina. But she was gone before he could finish. Cut to Lina outside the building, walking fast through the street, rain starting again. Narrator calm but heavy. Some truths don't set you free. They just rearrange the chains. That night, Lina sat by her apartment window, staring at the city lights blurring through the rain. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of missed calls from Adrian. She didn't answer. Instead, she opened her laptop, pulled up a blank document, and started typing. Sometimes, love doesn't come to heal you. It comes to test if you've healed yourself. Her words poured out like confession and therapy all at once. Hours passed. Then her phone buzzed again. One final message from him. You were never part of an experiment, Lina. But if I was one, you were the result. She stared at the text for a long time, her breath catching. Then, without replying, she shut the phone off. Days passed. Silence. Adrian didn't call again. She returned to work, avoided the cafes they used to visit, tried to rebuild the calm she had before meeting him. But every quiet moment betrayed her. Every coffee cup, every rainstorm, every window reflection whispered his name. At the same time, Adrian buried himself in work. The office grew colder. Colleagues noticed his focus fading. He'd catch himself opening her last message, staring at it until his screen dimmed. Narrator soft. They say some people come into your life like a storm, loud, sudden, unforgettable. But some leave like rain, quietly, and you don't notice until you realize the world feels emptier without them. Weeks later, fate circled back. Lina received an invitation in her email. An event. Orion Tech, Mind and Heart Conference. She didn't plan to attend, until she saw the subtitle. Keynote speaker, Adrian Cole, When Logic Meets Love. Her heart jumped. She closed the email, then reopened it, then closed it again. 2 days later she was there. The auditorium buzzed with cameras and applause as Adrian walked onto the stage. He looked composed, but his eyes scanned the crowd searching. Lina sat in the back row, hidden behind a sea of faces. Adrian began speaking. A few months ago, I met someone who reminded me that data doesn't heal people. People heal people. That empathy isn't code you can write. It's connection you have to risk. Lina froze. He continued, voice steady but emotional. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit when you got it wrong. The room was silent. Cameras clicked. He smiled faintly. If she's watching, I hope she knows. This speech isn't about success. It's my apology. Lina's chest tightened. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. After the conference, Lina sat in her car for a long time. The rain drumming softly on the windshield. The city lights smeared across the glass like streaks of memory. She didn't know whether to cry, laugh, or just drive away and pretend the last few months hadn't happened. She scrolled through her phone, staring at his message again. You were never part of an experiment, Lina. But if I was one, you were the result. Her hands shook slightly. Finally, she typed back. You owe me coffee. And maybe a better explanation. Then she hit send before she could change her mind. A single check mark. Then 2. Then 3 dots appeared. And vanished. He was typing. Then not typing. Then typing again. Finally a reply. Same cafe. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. She exhaled slowly, heart racing. The next morning, she stood outside the cafe where it had all started. Rain clouds thinning into silver light. She half expected him not to show, half hoped he wouldn't, so she could finally close the chapter without reopening the wound. But then through the glass she saw him, sitting there, hands clasped, no coffee yet, just waiting. He looked up as if he felt her eyes on him. Their gazes met. For a second no one moved. Then she walked in. He stood. You came. I said I would. I didn't think you meant it. I almost didn't, she said quietly. They sat. Silence hovered, thick and awkward. She finally broke it. That conference, what you said, was it real? He met her eyes. All of it. Maybe the first honest thing I've said in years. She studied him, trying to see if there was any trace of the man she once thought he was. The one who could hug a stranger just to help her breathe again. You hurt me, she said. I know. You don't just get to apologize on stage and expect it to undo that. I don't expect it to, he said softly. I just hoped it might reach you. She looked down at her hands, then back at him. Why did you really help me that day? The airport. Be honest. He took a deep breath. Because you look like I used to feel. Lost. Trying to hide pain behind pride. I knew that look because I wore it for years. Her throat tightened. And the hug? She asked. He smiled faintly. That part wasn't planned. That was instinct. She let out a shaky laugh. Some instinct. He leaned forward. Lina, I don't want to rewrite what we were. I just want a chance to show you who I actually am. No pretense. No bealt. No control. Just me. She blinked back tears. You talk like love is a project you can relaunch. Not relaunch, he said. Rebuild. Together. She stared at him for a long moment, trying to decide if her heart could afford to believe him again. Then softly, I'm not who I was at that airport either. I know, he said. You're stronger now. And that's what scares me most, because you don't need me anymore. Maybe not, she said. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see where this goes. He reached across the table, hesitating before his hand found hers. So what are we then? She smiled faintly. Two people who met at the wrong time, trying to make it right. They sat there for a long time. No grand gestures, no music swelling. Just two people rediscovering what it meant to breathe the same air without armor. As the cafe filled with the smell of roasted beans and quiet chatter, Adrian finally said, You know, I had another conference next week. She raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. When Logic Meets Love, Part 2? He laughed. No, when love finally wins. She rolled her eyes. That's worse. Maybe, he said, but it's honest. Her laughter mixed with his, the tension dissolving. Later, they stepped outside together. The rain had stopped completely. The world smelled new. They walked down the street, not holding hands yet, but close enough that their shoulders brushed. He said quietly, You ever think about how everything started with one moment? One impulsive choice. She smiled. You mean me grabbing a stranger and asking him to hug me? Yeah, he said. That one. Best impulsive decision I ever made, she whispered. He turned to her. Same. They paused at the crosswalk, the world rushing around them, horns blaring, lights flashing. For a moment, everything felt like that day at the airport, except this time, there was no pretense, no act. Just them. He looked at her. You know what's funny? I used to believe success meant never feeling lost again. Then I met you, and realized the right person doesn't erase your chaos. They make it worth navigating. She smiled softly. That's the kind of quote people put on posters. Then maybe it deserves to be, he said. The light turned green. They crossed together. As they reached the other side, she stopped suddenly. Adrian. He turned. Yeah. Let's not go back to pretending this time. He nodded. No pretending. Ever again. And then finally, she took his hand, fingers interlocking like it was the most natural thing in the world. They met pretending to be in love, and ended up learning what love really meant. Not perfection. Not control. Just two imperfect people who chose one another. And if you've ever been where Lina once stood, heartbroken, unseen, and ready to give up, maybe this story was meant for you. Because love doesn't always arrive when you're ready. Sometimes it arrives when you've stopped believing it will. If this story moved you even a little, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and subscribe for more stories that